This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, all are there. So you just finished your class, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Oh, very good. So today we had one extra class for medicinal chemistry. Actually, Shilpa madam is not available, so I'm taking in place of her. Monday, as usual, we will have our normal class. Okay. So this is an extra class this week. Now in today's class, as I said, we will discuss about the antihistamine. So I will try to complete this unit in today class, and then next class Monday we'll go for SAR, we'll go for synthesis, and we'll discuss any other topics, or if you guys have any queries, doubts, you can clarify, correct? You can ask to me. So after today's class, you refer the books, go through all slides what I have discussed with you. I will share it today, and note down your doubts, note down the queries what you have, and clarify on Monday class. And then Monday we will, after that, if time is there, Monday we will start anti-neoplastic agents or anti-cancer agents, the next unit. Okay, so coming to today's class now, today we are discussing about H2 antihistamines. The drug H2 antihistamines are the class of drug which block the effect of histamine, which is mediated through H2 receptors. Right. We have studied about the different types of histamine receptors through which histamine mediates its functions, and we also studied that antihistamine drugs exert their effect by blocking the binding of released histamine to a specific receptors, and based on that they are classified as H1, H2, H3, H4 antihistamines. So we discussed H1 antihistamine in our last three classes. uh, we also talked about what type of biological role they play, and what are the clinical significance, what are their side effects or toxicity, and what are the molecules which are safer to use as H1 antihistamines. Now today we'll talk about H2 antihistamines. Why H2 antihistamines are required, what are the main biological role of H2 antihistamines, and apart from that H2 antihistamines, we will also talk about the proton pump inhibitors. So the main function, the main biological role of H2 receptor is it is involved in gastric acid secretion. Correct. So the H2 mediated histamines bind with H2 receptors, and it promotes the excess secretion or hypersecretion of gastric acids. So now you can, by this statement only, we can make that when we are designing H2 antihistamines, these H2 antihistamines will block the hydrochloric acid secretion. Okay, so very common term, everybody says gastric problem, correct? Oh no, I will not eat this, I will not eat that, I have gastric problem, I have acidity. So many brands, even like the common name, common term you must have heard, like antacids, then this ranitidine, Rantac, Zentac, then omeprazole. These are the few drugs which are used for the treatment of, in layman term, you can say treatment of acidity. But what actually this gastric problem is, what is this acidity actually? So what are the causes? There may be more than one cause for this, not only the stimulation or the binding of histamine to H2 receptors, but apart from that there are different mediators, there are different reasons for the hypersecretion of gastric acids. So first let us talk about is gastric acids are getting separated. So you can see in this slide, the apparatus of auxiliary glands in gastric mucosa. Gastric gestates hydrochloric acid. So roughly 2 to 3 liters of gastric juice gets excreted, and the pH will be surprised to know the pH of that HCl got secreted is 1. So you can imagine how strong it is. Right? Like our non-concentrated which we see in our lab. So just think, imagine if hydrochloric acid is more, how much badly it will affect our GAT, it will affect our normal body system also. If pH body fluid is coming down, so many infections will start occurring. So it is very important to control the gastric acid secretions, the control secretions of HCl, and there are different approaches. Not one drug can be used completely, depending on the severity of the acidity, severity of the condition. Whether if it is too severe, combinations of medicines are given. If it is okay, mild only, then the basic molecule, sometimes the normal antacids are also effective. So depending on the condition of the patient or the person, the molecules or the medicines are given. So in general, the gastric acid secreted in auxiliary glands through proton pump. What is this proton pump? You can see in this light green color. The proton pump is nothing but is H plus K plus ATPase pump. So now here we can say that gastric acid secreted in gland through proton pump, and it needs to be blocked if it is getting secreted in excess. You cannot say that we don't want this gastric acid at all, don't want HCl at all. No, otherwise the digestion of food process will not initiate. So if there is no HCl secretion, or when there is very less HCl secretion, it will call as achlorhydria. That is also not good. And if that the achlorhydria is there, means HCl secretion is very less, the body will get feedback, and the body will start producing very large amount of HCl. So we should not take all these medicines which blocks HCl secretion just for without any reason. If it is really needed, if it is you have the severe acidity problem, then only we should take it. Or else what will happen if someone is taking these H2 antihistamines or proton pump inhibitors, it will block the HCl secretion, and body will get signal that okay, the HCl secretion is less, let us produce more HCl. So what will happen? More HCl will start getting produced from the cells, and it will lead to very severe acidity, right? So the factors affecting the hypersecretion of gastric acid includes, you can see here, H2 histaminergic pathway. This is the one factor which promotes, or which you can say mediates the secretion of gastric acids. Now all these factors, these are not the normal conditions, correct? They mediate their role. Apart from these factors, 3 factors also, the HCl secretion keep going on in our body as per the requirement. But in extreme conditions, in stimulus, external stimulus, allergic reactions, tests, all those, no, like gastrines, then Helicobacter pylori infections, the secretion increases and it leads to severe acidity. So when we are designing the drug, we have to block the secretion of HCl, either by we block it by developing H2 antihistamines, or by blocking the proton pump. What proton pump is means the secreting the HCl. So those drugs are called as proton pump inhibitors, right? Apart from that, there are like supportive therapy, antacids are there. Then there are coating agents, suspension which coats our stomach and to protect the erosion of cell or damage of cell by effect of hydrochloric acids. So there are different approaches, and that is called as the management of hypersecretion. How to manage it? So you can see neutralizing the secreted hydrochloric acid, that is a normal antacids, Gelusil, Divon, so many brands are there, correct? Then blocking the H2 histaminergic pathway. Here is our H2 antihistamines, which we will discuss with examples. And the third category of a drug which is used to block the proton pump. H plus K plus ATH pump is the proton pump inhibitors. You're like omeprazole, very common brand. Now we have esomeprazole. There are so many molecules under this category: rabeprazole, pantoprazole. Depending on the condition, these individual drugs are prescribed. So this is about this slide. We talked about the hydrochloric acid secretion in stomach by parietal cells of the auxiliary gland and through proton pump, H plus K plus ATPase pump, and excess secretion of HCl. It causes severe acidity, so we need to control the excess secretion of acid, but we cannot we cannot completely block the HCl secretion, otherwise it will lead to the condition called as achlorhydria, which is not good. If achlorhydria is there, then it will lead to the excess secretion by body when they will get the feedback mechanism. You must have studied in negative and positive feedback mechanism, right? So the next one is management. How to manage? We can manage the excess acid secretion by using antacids. Now here there is the function may be same for all these three approaches. You can see antacids, H2 antihistamines, and proton pump inhibitors, but their mechanism is different, right? For example, antacids, it does not block the secretion of HCl, correct? Just like antacids are like it will just neutralize whatever HCl has got secreted. It will neutralize it. Most usually they are bases, correct? So they'll react with HCl and produce salt. HCl will be neutralized, but they will not block the HCl secretion. Okay. The another approach is H2 antihistamines. Now H2 antihistamines and proton pump inhibitors, both of them they block the HCl secretions. The proton pump inhibitors, they will block directly, while H2 antihistamines, they block the HCl secretion indirectly. Means proton pump inhibitors, they directly target that proton pump which secretes the HCl, which you can say pump out, which exchange that H plus K plus ATP. It takes potassium and it gives H plus, and that H plus combined with Cl minus and HCl gets secreted. So that process is directly, it will be blocked by proton pump inhibitors, and that's why proton pump inhibitors are more prominent, more potent than H2 antihistamines in management of acidity. So and that's why they're used in the severe cases, not for the mild acidity. Usually antacid or H2 antihistamines are given. While H2 antihistamines, they act indirectly. They target, they block this histaminergic pathway, and then the next step of reaction will get blocked and no HCl secretion. So these are the approaches. Now coming to the actual topic or today's class is H2 antagonist. So now you must have some idea, right? What is H2 antagonist and why it is used. So I'm using today handwritten notes. It's my notes only. I did not get time to prepare the slides. I think this is visible to all of you, right? You can see now. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, fine. So this slide, no, you can take it as a notes only, because I thought to give same to all of you for the H2 antagonist. So now you can see here this H2 antagonist, they have multiple applications, especially in management of gastric acids and the disorders, problems related with gastric acid secretions. For the common symptoms like heartburn, GERD, GERD, like it is called as gastroesophageal reflux diseases, then corrosive esophagitis and gastric acid, duodenal ulcer, gastric hypersecretory diseases, also called as Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. Remember this one, ZE syndrome. Okay, sometimes they ask ZE syndrome is related with, so you should remember it is due to the excess secretion of gastric acid or HCl. Now these are the actually, you can say, symptoms of the hypersecretion, and to cure this or to control this, H2 antagonists are prescribed. But again I will tell you, H2 antagonists or H2 antihistamines, they are not potent enough, or they are not that much effective as your proton pump inhibitors. So alone H2 antagonist cannot cure all these things, or the severe cases related to hypersecretion of gastric acids cannot be cured by the H2 antagonist alone. We need the supportive therapy. That's why when the often people shifted, or doctors, they shift to the proton pump inhibitors like omeprazole or nowadays pantoprazole, most effective. They move to that rather than just sticking with antagonists. But initially, or for a prevention purpose, it can be H2 antagonist can be used in case of hypersecretion of gastric acids. So there are so many H2 antagonists in the market. Like now, famotidine and ranitidine is commonly used, but ranitidine or famotidine, it was not the first drug which directly got synthesized. See, remember one thing: whichever drug we see in market, correct, in the form of medicine. So I think you know the difference between drug and medicine, correct? What is the difference, drug and medicine? Anyone? What is the difference between drug and medicine?
Sir, medicine is to cure the disease, sir,
Okay, and drug?
which will affect the body or toxic, like.
See, Shashank, and
Yes, sir.
drug and medicine, just a technical term. See, when you go for a particular formulations, right? When you go for
Yes,
a
sir.
particular formulations like tablet, capsules, liniment, lotions, anything, suspension, emulsion, and that particular formulations where it comes in the prescription, it becomes medicine. While drug means just a molecule, like paracetamol 500 kg. 500 kg, one bag of paracetamol is the paracetamol is that drug, like the status of drug. It is given after the all regulatory approval, everything. Before that, paracetamol is just a chemical, correct? So a chemical becomes drugs, and then drug becomes the medicine which we consume, which the patient takes. So what patient takes, usually the technical term is medicine. So any medicine, in place of that, we'll use the word drug here, because we are not talking about any formulations. So just as a ranitidine, if you talk the molecule, it is a drug. When we say ranitidine tablet or ranitidine syrup or ranitidine injection, then we will say it is a medicine. So that whatever drug we see, correct, the molecule we see for a particular use, it is not like that directly we go and synthesize that. There will be some process, there will be some trial and error, there will be nowadays the rational drug discovery or rational drug design. Based on the parameters we have, we select those parameters, we study the ADME property, now the ADME and toxicity property, we study, modify the molecule, and we get the final molecule. You must have studied SAR, right? A structure activity relationship. So what that SAR is? SAR is nothing but it is the combined informations combined together related to modification of a molecule to get the better effect. That's why it is a structure activity relationship. So similarly for here, for ranitidine also, the first molecule, the pioneer molecule here was, you can see in this notes, barimamide. Now this barimamide was the prototype drug, the first drug for the H2 receptor antagonist property, and this molecule was known to block that histamine and pentagastrin stimulated gastric acid secretion, but not in human. They performed this barimamide, listen carefully, they performed this barimamide as an H2 receptor antagonist, and they found that the molecule is known to bind with H2 receptors and blocking the secretion of HCl. That in rat, guinea pig, and some mammals they tried, but they have not tried on human being. The problem with this barimamide was its poor bioavailability. Correct. So look at this barimamide molecule. It was replaced by meteamide. Here you can see this molecule, meteamide. Remember the barimamide, first H2 antagonist, which was replaced by meteamide. And why it was replaced? Because in on animal study it was found that the bariumamide molecule is 10 times less potent, or you can say it has poor bioavailability. So because of that, the very small concentration of drug is available for to exert its effects, and the molecule was modified, and the modified molecule was a meteamide. But the meteamide, when it is introduced in clinical trial, it was found that this molecule causes severe agranulocytosis in patients during clinical trial, and due to this agranulocytosis side effect, the meteamide use was stopped and it was modified, and the new molecule came was cimetidine. So see how we are covering this journey. We started from bariumamide, where bariumamide, you can say, the pioneer molecule or prototype drug for H2 receptor antagonist. H2 receptor for H2 receptor antagonist, and this bariumamide known to inhibit HCl secretion in rat, guinea pig, dogs, and other mammals, but they did not try in humans. The problem with this drug was its poor bioavailability, and due to that, they modified the molecule and they got meteamide. Now, meteamide was found to be more potent, but they stopped the use of meteamide because during clinical trial it was found that the molecule causes agranulocytosis, and because of that they stopped it, and the next molecule launched was the cimetidine. Now cimetidine was found to be safer compared to meteamide, but later cimetidine was discontinued. Why? Because of the side effects. This cimetidine found to cause impotency in male patients, and due to this problem the cimetidine use has been stopped. So now here we can see the journey of, and then in place of cimetidine later we got ranitidine and famotidine. We'll discuss later. So in this slide you can see bariumamide, the first H2 antagonist, poor oral bioavailability, that's why replaced by meteamide. This meteamide very better bioavailability, but agranulocytosis was the side effect, and due to this side effect this was withdrawn from the market. Okay, it was found that it is not good, not suitable to use, and then we got the molecule cimetidine. Cimetidine was found to be better and free from this agranulocytosis side effect, and the first H2 antagonist which was used clinically. Then it has the side effects of that impotency in male, and cimetidine was replaced by ranitidine. Nowadays you won't get cimetidine in market, Indian market, but now ranitidines are there, and then brands like Rantac, Jantac, Esiloc, these are the few brands, common brands, which contains a ranitidine hydrochloride molecule. So this is a very potent, more potent than cimetidine, and the molecule was introduced in 1981 by Glaxo pharmaceutical company, a very major, very big pharmaceutical company, right? And now we have another one example, ranitidine. From that we got famotidine. Famotidine is potent, and it is more potent than cimetidine and more potent than ranitidine. So how we traveled this journey is started from bariumamide, then moved to meteamide. Remember this line, okay? Order, then cimetidine, the first H2 antagonist or H2 antihistamine, then cimetidine moved. After that we got ranitidine, and then finally famotidine. Right now ranitidine and famotidine are used clinically. Cimetidine is not used, right? So what we discussed till this slide is that why we need H2 and H2 antihistamine. We need H2 antihistamine because they H2 receptors mediate the HCl secretion, and in case of excess HCl secretion, if we have the H2 antihistamine, it will block that receptor, it will occupy the receptor, and there will be no HCl secretion. So we use this H2 antihistamine as a you can say, to treat the gastric disorders or the problem related with hypersecretion of HCl. So how it was developed, what are the molecules? The verimamide was the first molecule, but it was tried in it was found to inhibit the HCl secretion. It was found to bind with H2 receptors in rat, dog, guinea pig, and then other some mammals, but they did not try on human beings. Later, due to very poor bioavailability, the molecule was modified and we got the molecule meteamide. Meteamide, it was having better bioavailability, but why it was withdrawn? Because of the problem, granulocytosis, the severe side effects, and due to this granulocytosis, it was withdrawn from market. Remember this order, okay? Then from meteamide, cimetidine, we got the first H2 antagonist which was used clinically. But since cimetidine has a problem, especially with male patient, it found to cause the cases of impotency has been reported. So the cimetidine replaced by ranitidine, and in fact ranitidine was the first H2 antagonist till today which is in use and still just prescribed. However, now there are another safer H2 antagonist like famotidine has also come, but still some physicians they go for ranitidine, some people go for famotidine. Famotidine is found to be more potent. It is more potent than ranitidine also, and it is more potent than cimetidine also. So now what is the difference you can see here from meteamide to cimetidine is, you see the structure of meteamide and cimetidine, just will compare here, right? Meteamide also containing heterocyclic nucleus here. What is the name of this heterocyclic nucleus? Anyone can tell? Yes? Anyone from the class? What is the name of this heterocyclic moiety here in both? 5-membered, 2 nitrogen at 1 and 3rd position. It is imidazole, right? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you respond yes or no. Otherwise, I think that you people lost the contact. So 5-membered with 2 nitrogen at 1 and 3rd is imidazole. So meteamide and cimetidine both are containing imidazole heterocyclic part. Now substituted methyl group here is also there. The sulfide bond is also there, correct? Not sulfide, sulfonyl linkage is also there. And now here you can see in meteamide the thiourea moiety. What is thiourea? What is urea? H2NCONH2 urea, right? You know the structure of urea. Now replace oxygen of urea by sulfur, it will be thiourea. So you can see here in methyl thiourea moiety is present in meteamide, and this thiourea responsible for that granulocytosis. So what scientists did, they replaced this thiourea by the moiety. What is this moiety name? Can anyone tell me? Okay, I will tell you. Next slide. So this thiourea replaced by this nitrile or cyanoaminoguanidine, and it is called as cimetidine. Other parts are found to be similar. There is no change. You can see here imidazole, methyl ring is methyl group is present in both meteamide and cimetidine. You can see here the sulfur linkage is also there. Only difference is the thiourea of meteamide has been replaced by this nitrile group bearing molecule, and because of that the toxicity of the granulocytosis is not seen in this case. Okay, why Shilpa left the class? Fine. Coming to the next slide.
I rejoined.
Okay. SAR
I had
of H2 is okay. SAR of H2 receptor antagonist we will discuss. So what is a SAR? Structure activity relationship. Till this slide, before this slide, what we discussed about the why H2 receptor antagonist required and how the H2 receptor antagonist got developed. Now we'll talk about the structural features. What are the change in structures done? What changes has been done in the structure to improve the H2 antihistaminic property and minimizing the toxic effect or side effects of the molecule. So what is the difference? What the first point what we discussed is we compared the structure of meteamide and we compared the structure of cimetidine. And what difference we are finding here? In meteamide we are having this we are having this thiourea moiety, which is responsible for granulocytosis. We discussed just few minutes back. While in cimetidine we are having this cyanoguanidine moiety. This cyanoguanidine is not causing a granulocytosis, while this meteamide is causing this thiourea part is causing a granulocytosis. Now here one line is written here. You can read here: replacement of thiourea moiety of meteamide by cyanoguanidine gives better and safer molecule, and the molecule is cimetidine. Okay, is it clear? The first line of SAR, we are replacing the thiourea from this structure. You can see we are replacing this sulfur by this nitrile, correct? So this whole part is called as cyanoguanidine. Okay, so when you are replacing this, we are the granulocytosis, which is because of this part mainly. Not I'm saying this or this, because this is again same. You can say same here. Only this sulfur is causing. So the granulocytosis will replace, and this is one example of isosteric replacement. There is one phenomena, one term in drug discovery, which is called as bioisosterism. I think when you will have the drug design chapter in your medchem, no, that time we'll discuss. So in short, I would like to tell you that the isoesters or bioisoesters, especially bioisoesters, are the group of compounds like which can be used to replace each other to minimize the toxicity and to improve the biological properties. In short, you just have this idea about the bioisoesters, and the phenomena is called as bioisosterism. So here in this case, you can say that through isosteric replacement of this sulfur group by this nitrile, correct? Cyano and this nitrile means cyanoguanidine, cyanoguanidine moiety, we are getting cimetidine with better potency and minimal side effect. Now coming to the second point, which says that a replacement of imidazole moiety of cimetidine by guanidine ethanazole increases the potency of molecule. Now this line is very important, and just try to understand what is the meaning of this. Replacement of imidazole moiety means when you are replacing this group, this heterocyclic part, when you are replacing, then also you are getting a very potent antihistamine, thiotidine. It means to produce that antihistaminic effect, H2 blocking effect, H2 binding effect, we do not need this moiety. Means this is not essential for the activity. We have the cimetidine, which is containing imidazole, but even if we remove this imidazole by any other group, for example here it is guanidine, we can still get the molecule with good antihistaminic property. This is the purpose of this statement. Okay, is it clear? So now what are the 2 points we remembered? We started with meteamide, we replaced the sulfur of that meteamide by the group cyanoguanidine, and because of that we got the potent molecule cimetidine. But later we came to know that even if we replace this imidazole part from the drug, from the cimetidine, there is no problem with the activity. The activity will be retained. It means this imidazole moiety or imidazole part is not required for the antihistaminic property, right? And that's why in this one they replaced it by guanidine moiety, and they got the antihistaminic H2 antihistamine, correct? And the molecule is tioteidine. As you can see here, they have replaced this one by this part and they have introduced another heterocyclic. So they have closed the ring here, correct? Now the another third line is a replacement of imidazole ring of cimetidine by furan and cyanoguanidine moiety by diamino nitroethylene gives another potent molecule. Now see, one by one we can clear the concept. The first one was, we see when we get one molecule, lead molecule, you can say, or the pioneer molecule here, then we go for modification. We start doing all analysis, right? So what the first point we came to know that meteamide is causing granulocytosis due to this sulfur linkage. So we don't want this sulfur part, it has been replaced, and the new part is cyanoguanidine, and we found that okay, this cyanoguanidine is free from granulocytosis. The next attempt what was done, that they replaced this imidazole part by guanidine part, and they came to know that still the antihistaminic property remains, correct? So means the imidazole is not essential, not compulsory for the activity. It can be replaced by any other group. Now coming to the third modification, what they did, since the imidazole is not responsible, they replaced this imidazole by furan ring, and they replaced the cyanoguanidine part, this or this one of both molecule, by diamino nitroethylene, and the new molecule what they got is ranitidine. Sorry, this one. Now you can see the structure of ranitidine. There is no imidazole, there is no that guanidine part, cyanoguanidine, correct? So these two are same, only what in place of cyanoguanidine, what is that? Nitroethylene, 2 carbon double bond. So this nitroethylene and this furan, 2 changes made on the molecule, and this molecule is more potent than cimetidine, more potent than tioteidine. It means even that cyanoguanidine is also not essential for activity, and the first heterocyclic part, imidazole, is also not important for activity. But one thing very common which we did not make, or which we did not alter, is this chain. If you can see, right, this part we left here as such. Most of the potent molecule, you can see the structure of cimetidine here also, SS, it is same. You can see the structure of ranitidine here also, this part is same. So where, or you can say nizatidine, another molecule, here also the chain is same, linear chain, no, with sulfur is same, sulfur linkage. So what changes we can make, what are the points where we can do modification is, one is the heterocyclic part here, it can be imidazole, it can be furan, it can be open chain molecule also, and we can make changes here. In place of that cyano or sulfur, we can introduce groups like here they have done nitroethylene, the activity remains same. Means part 1 here and 2, these are the 2 points where modification has been done, or it can be done without losing the activity. But we cannot modify this state chain where we see it here, diamino methyl part and this sulfur linkage. If you are modifying this, you will. Is it clear to all of you? Hello.
So can you repeat last 2 points? It was
Hello. This one.
yes, sir. Last 2-3 lines, sir.
Okay. See, in general, I tell you, correct? Now listen carefully. From let us see this one. No, some marketed H2 antagonist. There only I will explain, so it will be easy to understand, right? So we have some examples here: famotidine, cimetidine, ranitidine, and nizatidine. All of you are listening, no? See, famotidine, cimetidine, ranitidine, and nizatidine. There are 4 H2 antagonists written here, right? Now you tell me what are the similarity in all these 4 structures and what are the differences in these 4 structures. Anyone from you just see the structure and tell me first the similar part which is present in the structure. Yes. Okay, I tell you. See, this part is common in all structures. Means here no modification has been done. Okay, where modification has been done, the modification has been done on this heterocyclic side. Some is having imidazole, some is having furan, some is having thiazole. See, nizatidine containing thiazole, ranitidine containing furan, cimetidine containing imidazole, while famotidine containing guanidine, amino guanidine. So it means the heterocyclic part which is present, the first heterocyclic part is not important for activity. Second thing, this cyanoguanidine part is not important for activity. You can do the modifications and you will get the better linkage, so better activities. So the last line of this SR is that the thioether linkage has been retained in most H2 antagonists because substitution of the sulfur atom by other heteroatom or by methylene affects the receptor binding property. So my dear friends, please remember this line. That's why I am repeatedly saying that we are doing so many modifications. You can see here, but we are not doing any modification of this part. Thioether, it is it is similar like ether. If you replace sulfur by oxygen, it is called as ether. Here it is sulfur, so it is thioether linkage. So in all or majority of your H2 antagonists, this part has been retained. They have not modified, they have not changed it by any other group. Neither they have replaced the sulfur by carbon or sulfur by any other atom. If they will do like that, there are chances of losing the affinity of molecule to bind with the receptors. So irrespective of other substitution, the thioether linkage is very important for H2 antihistamines to produce the effect. Is it clear? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we discussed about SAR. We discussed about the biological role played by H2 antihistamines, and we discussed how the H2 antihistamines got developed. Now we'll move to the next slide. Okay. Some adverse effects or toxicity of the H2 antagonists. So some common adverse effects. For example, cimetidine. As I said that cimetidine was better, but more potent and free from the side effects of agranulocytosis, which was seen in case of metiamine, right? But then also cimetidine was withdrawn due to their anti-androgenic property. I said in beginning it has problem with the problem for the male patients. So they block or they have negative effect on the male sex hormones production, and it leads to, if taken for a longer period of time, it may lead to impotency in the male patient. Okay, so due to that they are not recommended or they have been withdrawn. Apart from that, cimetidine was found to be a high affinity for cytochrome P450 enzyme, the enzyme involved in metabolism of so many of the drugs in our body. So what happens when this cimetidine taken, it binds with this cytochrome P450 and it blocks the metabolism of drugs like warfarin, phenytoin, and theophylline. Theophylline is present in tea. So when you are taking cimetidine, don't take tea. If you are taking tea, don't take cimetidine. Correct. So what happens when if cimetidine is taken, it will bind with this enzyme. It will bind with this enzyme and it will block the metabolism or the clearance of warfarin, phenytoin, and theophylline will be blocked, and these drugs will retain in body for a longer time, which may lead to the other side effects, other toxicity. That's why cimetidine is discontinued. Now it is not used. Now, apart from this, whatever drugs available now, like ranitidine or famotidine, they are quite safer than the cimetidine. Okay, so in general, if we summarize the SAR of the molecule, we have one part imidazole ring, you can see here, which can be replaced by other heterocyclic systems like furan, thiophene, thiazole, etc., or it can also be replaced by any open chain system. Then we have one chain. Now this is very important. Usually 4 carbon chain are preferred and thioether linkage is required. I am repeating again and again. This thioether linkage means carbon, sulfur, carbon. Correct? You have seen in most of these structures. For example, here you see. So this thioether linkage is important and should be retained in most of the H2 antihistamines, while this terminal nitrogen can be retained, can be replaced. We have seen in so many structures. They are there here in case of it is guanidine part, in case of ranitidine it is nitroethylene. So they are not important for the activity. So this is all about the SAR. We discussed about the development of H2 antagonist, how H2 antagonist got developed, and we talked about the biological importance of H2 antihistamines. We also talked about how to manage the gastric acid or a hypersecretion of the gastric acids and what